We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Sunday. We're in the midst of the weekend. News stories a little light on the weekends, but we've got some interesting shit, some crazy shit surrounding Donald Trump. You'll want to hear about that. And we'll get to that, of course. I've got a number of emails. We've had some guests on, so I haven't read the emails. So I got a lot of catching up to do. You know how much I value the emails and the input from the listeners of this show. I think it's just important as anything I would have to say. So I appreciate those emails. Keep them coming at rationalboomer@gmail.com, and I'll keep reading them and be thankful for that opportunity. Before we get into it, I just want to say yesterday I had a great day. Had a wonderful day. Saturday was a fun day, and it was mainly because my son called my wife and I up and said, "Listen, I got to do some Christmas shopping. Would you mind watching my granddaughter or his daughter, my granddaughter?" I said, "Fuck no, bring her over. We'll have a hell of a good time. We'll go swimming, we'll do a bunch of stuff." And he did. And she came over and we had a great time and we were doing puzzles and we were coloring. We made a little gingerbread house. We did some swimming. She loves to swim. Grandma and grandpa both got in the pool with her, and we're swimming around doing all kinds of fun shit. And she said to me, she said, I like coming over to grandma and grandpa's house because we always do fun stuff. And I said, well, that's true. But remember, as long as you're with grandpa, you're also doing cool stuff. She goes, yeah, cool stuff. You got to train them early so they know what they're dealing with here. And I feel it's my duty to let her know that her grandpa loves her, but he's also pretty cool. I'm being sarcastic here, kind of. Anyway, it was a funny story, and it was something with my granddaughter, and I'm not sure if I should take offense to it or I should be proud of her and impressed by her. Now, keep in mind, we'd just gone swimming, so I'd been in the pool for about an hour. Get out, kind of shower off, um, put on new clothes. I didn't put on my old clothes. I put on new clothes, freshly clean clothes. And we come back into the condo with my granddaughter, and she's playing around, running around, chasing after my youngest son, her uncle. And she's just standing there one time, and she looks at me as I'm sitting in a chair, actually this very chair, and she says, "Grandpa, hug me." I said, "Absolutely, come here." And she comes over and she grabs onto me. I grab onto her and I'm hugging her. And, and then after a second or so, she kind of pushes away and she says, "Grandpa, you smell like meat." Now, I don't know what the hell that meant. I'd been in a pool, I took a shower, wearing clean clothes. How the hell could I smell bad? And I don't know that she meant I smell bad. But the whole point of saying you smell like meat, it's either just something goofy a kid would say or she's a comedic genius. Because after she said that, I thought, I've heard that before. Where have I heard that before? And where have I laughed about it before? So I Googled that shit, that line, and of course it was in Elf. It was in the movie Elf. Now, as far as I know, she hasn't seen Elf because she's 3, and that's PG. Really not quite appropriate for a 3 or 4 year old. So I don't know that she's seen it. Maybe she has. But even if she has seen it, to remember it, reference it, and use it on me is fucking brilliant. Or maybe she just thought I smelled like meat and she wasn't too happy about it. I don't know what it was, but I'm intrigued by it. I don't know where that came from, but I think it's hilarious. I mean, some people might take offense to it. I like meat. Fuck it. If I smell like meat, make it ribeye. I'm better off then. Well, that's probably better than the way I smell normally anyway. So, so anyway, our little girl was over. We had a great time. Oh, I wanted to say something else too about that. Um, we were in Las Vegas, my wife and I. And when we went to Las Vegas, we saw a lot of cool stuff. Probably the best part of going to Las Vegas was having the opportunity to meet Old Soul in person, have lunch with her. And we did. And she was everything you see on the podcast. However you see her here, that's who she is. That's how she acts. And she's quite impressive, quite intelligent, very articulate, very compassionate. I look at her and I listen to her and I go, God, I wish I was that smart. I wish I was that compassionate. But there's something special about her, and you guys all know that because you love her so much when she's on the program. But when I first met her, when she gets out of the car, she's carrying like a gift bag, and she hands it to me and she said, "This is for your granddaughter." Oh, wow, it's fucking nice. You don't have to do that. So anyway, I take the bag and it's some books and it's a little unicorn pottery thing with a garden in it for her to play with. Perfect for her. And so we had her open that up when she was here. I took some video and her getting excited about getting a new book or getting a little garden. And I did the video and I sent it to Old Soul. And I was glad to be able to do that because my granddaughter usually gets excited about these things and she's very um, appreciative of a lot of stuff. And so when she got this, she ran to my wife and said, "Oh, Grandma, thank you." And and my wife said, "No, no, honey, it's not me. It's Daddy's friend, Old Soul. Should say thank you to her." So she turned around and says, "Thank you, Old Soul." And then continued on. It was adorable. Uh, Fortunately, I had a video of it and I was able to send it to her. So that was nice. Thank you to Old Soul for thinking of my granddaughter. And she had a wonderful time getting those gifts. And Grandma and she read both the books and they'll probably read them 100 times again. So thank you to her for that. All right. Now, getting down to business. Got some emails. Let's talk emails. First one comes from Deborah. Let me make sure. There's a Deb and there's a Deborah. And this one's Deborah from Southern California. Says, "Good morning, Mike. It's always so nice to listen to your podcast and a special treat when Old Soul is on. I enjoyed listening to such a young, articulate, wise woman explain the real reasons women consider having an abortion. The poor young lady that lost her child in the toilet, that's heartbreaking and mind blowing. Men aren't stopping to think of the emotional damage that this causes women, and it comes down to the fact that we are nothing in their eyes. The men that persecute these women are men that can only get laid through force and intimidation." And she had a laughing, winking thing. Uh, the sad thing about it is, Deborah, for some men out there, that's exactly right. It's a sad state of affairs when we have men in this country that sink to that level and think there's something special. She went on to say, "I wanted to share a link of a very special documentary that has to do with what you were talking about yesterday. LoneStarBrave.com. Very, very informative for all of us. We shall overcome this. Have a great rest of the week." Deborah from Southern California. Thank you, Deborah. I will certainly check it out. Yeah, when I did the show with Old Soul and we got talking about um, the abortion issue and all the things tied to it, we spent a lot of time talking about it with Old Soul. And every time I asked her something, I learned something very quickly. She is very knowledgeable about this, and she has a great insight about it. And what she had to say in that podcast, that maybe was one of the more important podcasts we've ever done, because I think a lot of men don't understand the mindset of women in this situation and just what they're dealing with. It's one thing to be told you can't have an abortion when you need one, but you have to understand the women that do decide to have an abortion and can, that in itself is traumatic, something they live with for the rest of their life. This is not an easy position to put women in either way they go. And it was nice to hear from a woman like Old Soul give us some insight to this. All too often, it's a cut and dried thing. I am against abortion, I'm for abortion, and then it's a matter of when is the fetus viable. It's very black and white, very institutional. And this puts some heart and soul to the topic, and it needs to be done. I think people need to understand it, and that's why I think that podcast was so important, because it may have given men particularly a different perspective. And not that they were callous or not that they weren't aware. It's just that's not something you hear in the media. They never go in that depth. And I'm thankful for Old Soul to be able to bring that to us because I think it did open up some eyes. I know it did. It opened up my eyes to things I didn't know. And that's the one thing great about Old Soul. I was talking to Ed about this. Uh, I said, Ed, Old Soul's coming on every week now too. And he goes, oh, cool. Yeah, she's great. And I said, there's something funny about Old Soul. Whenever I've done interviews or even on this podcast, I have a weird way of looking at things. And people might think it's a little crazy, but it's what I've always done my whole life. Whenever I look at a topic, my immediate go-to is to look at all the angles, negative, positive, whatever, and try to figure out what all those angles are. So frequently I'll come up with a take that people say, I never thought of that. It's because my weird head is looking at all the angles all the time and trying to come up with the one that I trust. And so I'll get that from time to time. People say, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good point. And I appreciate that. And it's a matter of my neurosis of going through all this shit. But very rarely in my life, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. This is just a weird function that my mind does. But I found myself doing that a lot with Old Soul. I do with Ed from time to time too, because Ed's very smart. He's smarter than I am in many things. All of you have your own areas of expertise, and I do learn a lot from everybody I have on the show. But Old Soul, I frequently go, fuck, why didn't I think about that? She's very impressive. She's very impressive. And I'm thankful that she comes on and gives us her insights because it's extremely valuable. All right. The next email comes from Craig. Thank you, Deborah. Hey, Mike, I enjoyed hearing Old Soul on the podcast. I hope Ed makes it back as soon as well. Well, he has. I'm writing to talk about the Republican Party getting more and more ridiculous by the day, it seems. The chair of the party in Florida is now blackmailing his own party, apparently. He wants $2 million to step down as chairman in Florida. God only knows what his mom's for Liberty wife is up to as well. These are not serious people, and hopefully they won't have any power soon. Thanks as always, Craig. Yeah, that's a weird situation. These evangelicals that are talking about LGBTQ and then go off and have threesomes. They get caught, and instead of walking away in shame like most normal people might do, then he tries to blackmail the Republican Party to give him $2 million to leave. I don't think he's going to get the money. And I think he thinks he's in a better position than he is. And I think he's going to burn to the ground eventually because, we're dealing with the Republican Party. These people um, are just constantly coming after the Democrats, but they're fighting amongst themselves too. That's the weird thing about this. Um, I think this particular guy fucked around, and he will find out. He's not ashamed of this at all, which is troubling in its own right. But he will be kicked out the door, and I don't think he'll be allowed to blackmail anybody. They're going to want to get rid of him as quickly as possible because just not good for business. You know what I'm saying? All right. Thank you very much. Now, the next one comes from Z Man. And he says, Hey, Boomer, how are you feeling? Actually, I'm feeling much better. Obviously, my cold has started to subside. I don't know that it's completely gone, but it's gone enough, and I feel a lot better. But that wasn't what he was talking about. He says, I just watched your take, unbelievable, and I found it a bit disconcerting. I read this email and I go, what the fuck are you talking about? Then he goes on and says, I'm worried that the MAGA morons got to you. Did something besides too much internet get to you to doubt your position and predictions for 24? Right now, as a country, we are in a strange. What the fuck do you mean by that? Right now, our country are in a strange place. The Republicans seem to screwing up, literally throwing the election in 2024 to the Democrats. Yet there is a pall of doubt and fear that something is wrong. What could that be? It's something at 71. I can't put my finger on it, but it gnaws at me and a lot of people. Are you fearing the worst? I'd like to hear your thoughts. This period before the election is very strange and stressful. Thanks for your daily work, Z-Man. Now, the best I can recall, that video I did, unbelievable. I was talking about the utter stupidity of Republicans. That doesn't really narrow it down for you very well, does it? But anyway, I said that one of the problems we have is that we are being dragged down a rabbit hole by dumb people. And if for no other reason, we should take a look at this and say, why are we following dumb people? And apparently Z-Man has gotten the idea that by saying what I said, that I've given up all hope. Please, motherfucker. No. I'm trying to point out the obvious to Trump-la-fucks. You and I and those of us of a like mind, we know better than this. I'm trying to make a point with those folks that might hear it. And frankly, there are more Republicans and Trump-la-fucks hearing my videos. I know because I'm getting more pushback. Z-Man, listen. I have the utmost of confidence that in 2024, there isn't one Republican that can beat any Democrat for the presidential election. Absolutely no question in my mind. I don't give up. I don't look badly on things. I look at the positive sides of things. I expect the positive, and generally I get the positive. So now I'm fine. You misread what you heard. That's not at all what I was saying. So hopefully that makes you feel better. All right. The next email starts out, "Hi, Mike. In a small win for abortion rights, the Supreme Court is hearing the mifepristone case. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering how that is a win. Well, they are only hearing two of the three parts of the case. This is a good point. I'm glad he brought this up. They are looking at whether or not doctors can sue the FDA over drug approvals, and if mifepristone can be sent through the mail or prescribed by telehealth. The win is that they're not looking at the approval of mifepristone. Regardless of how they decide this case, the drug will be available to be prescribed in some way. This is also a win for Democrats because it keeps abortion rights and healthcare access in the news." You're absolutely right. I think a lot of people think that when this goes to the Supreme Court, this drug would now be illegal if they find against it. And that's not the case. As he points out, it's a matter of uh, how easily you can get access to it, through the mail or whatever. That doesn't mean you can't go into your doctor and get it. So it's not ending, even if they find against this, it doesn't end the prescription or the use of it. It just makes it a touch harder to get a hold of it. You don't have as easy a time. But we're not even sure what the Supreme Court is going to do on this. So I'm not that worried about it. And you're right, it keeps it in the forefront, and that's absolutely necessary because when you have 70 to 75% of the people supporting Roe v. Wade, you want to be talking about this as much as possible because that will have an immense impact on the 2024 election. He goes on to say, "I have a challenge to all Republicans. If they're so confident that backing abortion bans, criminalization of women's health, and banning mifepristone is a winning strategy, let's have them put up or shut up. I suggest we get two constitutional amendments on the ballot in 24. The first would be the nationwide ban the Republicans want. The second would be one legalizing abortion nationwide and preventing states from enacting stricter restrictions. I'd be willing to bet that you'd get 38 states to ratify the second option, allowing abortion, and that not one state would pass a constitutional ban on abortion. I know the Republicans are scared to try that. They'd lose and lose big. I don't think there's any question. That's not going to happen, at least not in this particular state of things, as long as the Republicans have any control. Hopefully, after the 2024 election, we'll maybe have some more flexibility. But you're absolutely right. If you want to make these comments known or make these beliefs known, let's put it to the test. Let's let the people of this country decide instead of some dumb fuck Republicans in Congress. Goes on to say, lastly, I saw Congress passed a bill today I haven't heard if Biden is going to sign it, but I would imagine he will. The bill makes it impossible for any president to just leave NATO. It takes the approval of the Senate or an act of Congress. That removes at least one fear people have about a Republican president. Joe Biden just keeps on winning. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that did pass. I believe he signed it, and that's an important thing. Um, and it's an important thing only for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the only person that would walk in and pull out of NATO. And the reason he would do that is because his best girlfriend, Vladimir Putin, wants him to do it. NATO is a big stumbling block for Vladimir Putin and the Russians. And Donald Trump was doing his bidding when he was talking against NATO and wanting to pull out back when he was president. So that is an important bill. And it will make it that much harder for some fucking clown like Donald Trump to come in and just decide he wants to pull out. The fact of the matter is, NATO is a very important thing. It gives a lot of countries power that they wouldn't normally have. It's a alignment of countries, some smaller that wouldn't have the power to push back, but with NATO behind them and being part of NATO, this makes it more difficult for a country like Russia to come and invade them. That's why once this war is over, it would be nice to see Ukraine as part of NATO as well. We need to keep the Russians on their own ground. If they want to spread out into Ukraine or Poland or whatever, that is really a bad situation for this country and this world for that matter. Um, as Ed pointed out in the show yesterday, economically speaking, Russia is almost like a third world country. They aren't even close to as powerful as the United States. All they really have is the nuclear weapons, and that's why there's any fear of the Russian government. Um, and what they want to do is they want to expand again, or what Vladimir Putin wants to do is expand again to build up the USSR because they need to, because of the economic situation and power in general. So that's why we've got to keep them from doing it. Why would we give up all those countries after we were able to get them out of the USSR, which no longer exist? Um, for whatever reason, the Republicans do not get this. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's stupidity or they're just traitors. Who the fuck knows? So you're right. That is a great bill. And it's an important bill. So hopefully we'll keep winning. And you're absolutely right. When Donald Trump said you'll get tired of winning, I don't think he meant it, but he was kind of right in terms of Democrats and Joe Biden. When it comes to all the legal appeals and shit like that, Democrats keep winning. I'm not tired of it yet, but we're the only ones winning. Republicans don't have a fucking prayer. They lose at every turn. All right, the next email starts out, "Hi, Boomer. Love your TikToks and your podcasts. I read a lot of news, but I still like hearing what you are sure is going to happen. I very much like getting the different points of view from all over. It actually gives me hope for America. I'm in California, a blue city in a blue country, or a blue county in a blue state. I feel very good to know that people all over are seeing what is really going on, even in the reddest of red states. Now to my point. You have speculated about the upcoming decisions by the Supreme Court. Someone you respect because you said so, Glenn Kirshner, pointed out on one of his podcasts that if you follow the dictator playbook, you'll see that one of the first things the dictator wannabe does is take over the press. That will be followed by the dismantling of any part of the judiciary that has any checks or oversight power. The idea of a Supreme Court who can overrule the wannabe would be sure to go. So to save their jobs, status, power, etc., SCOTUS is very unlikely to do things that will help Trump get elected. That also gives me hope. Grandma, that's how she signed it. P.S. I'm from a decade before you. Well, grandma, and I feel funny calling someone else grandma other than my actual grandma or my wife, but I'll call you grandma. Um, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. The two parts of why, I mean, everybody's worried about, oh, SCOTUS is just going to side with Donald Trump because they're his toadies. And that may or may not be true, but you got to look at it the way they will probably look at it. They know enough about the judicial system to know that Donald Trump is on his way out. You don't want to hop on that ship because it's fucking sinking. Secondly, they'd be cutting their own throats, like you pointed out. First thing a fascist will do, get rid of the media and the judicial system, which would make the Supreme Court powerless because they might come up with a decision and the fascist dictator would say, nah, we don't like that, so we're going to do this. So it does take away their power. And over and above that, as I've said before, if he somehow is declared immune from everything because he was president once, that would also mean that Joe Biden is currently immune from everything, and he can do whatever he wants to do. You know, he can cancel the 2024 election. He can virtually do anything. So I don't see the Supreme Court throwing the world or the country anyway into chaos by making anybody who happens to become president immune from absolutely everything. It's not going to happen. I don't know when they'll come up with an answer. I presume it'll be fairly soon. I think Donald Trump is in a bad situation in this Washington, D.C. case. The Supreme Court will find against him. Um, he will have to go to trial, presumably March 4th, but maybe a couple weeks later, depending on how this delay works. But ultimately, he's going to go to trial and he's going to lose. He's going to be convicted. And I don't see any other way than him going to jail. There's no other thing they can do to him to make him accountable. And I think in this world, in this country, and in this day and age, if they don't make Donald Trump accountable, that's going to create quite an upheaval in this country. They know it, we know it. So something is going to have to be done. It may be unprecedented, but remember, everything Donald Trump did was unprecedented. So desperate times call for desperate measures. All right, next email. Oh my God, Mike, spawn of the devil, are you trying to make me choke on my drink of choice? Tell us how you really feel. Dick Cheney is the only person in the history of mankind to shoot somebody in the face and have that guy apologize for getting his face in the trajectory of his ammo. George W. was never the president. He was just the front man for Tricky Dick. Yes, Liz Cheney is as conservative as they come. In the real world, she would be far too much to the right for my taste. But this alternate universe, she is actually the voice of reason. How fucking scary is that? This is the one to return the GOP to some sense of normalcy. My God, man, this is really an alternate universe. How do I get myself the hell out of here? Spawn of the devil. Thanks for that hearty chuckle, Paul. Well, I've said that before, and you know, frankly, I believe it to be true. Dick Cheney was one evil motherfucker, and he had a lot of power for a long time. His daughter Liz, everybody likes to attach a lot of positivity to Liz Cheney. She's really not that positive a person, even though she has some integrity, even though she's honest and decent in that sense. Her thought process and her politics are so egregious. I mean, I can't imagine a Democrat voting for her. First of all, she's deadly against abortion completely. I'm sure she's not unhappy about overturning Roe v. Wade. Secondly, she has a problem with the LGBTQ community, which is interesting because her sister is gay. You remember there was a problem. She hadn't talked to her much. She pretty much cast her out to sea. And apparently they've come together and figured things out amongst themselves as sisters. But she's still not a big fan of the LGBTQ. I appreciate her integrity. I appreciate her decency and willingness or interest in rule of law. But that's it. That's absolutely it. She isn't. a good fit for anything in this country. Now, that said, what you suggested about her um, bringing the Republican Party back to normalcy, that's a pretty heavy word to apply to Republicans, even prior to Donald Trump. I mean, you look over the years and the decades and what they've done to the economy in this country and how they've treated people. I don't know that the term normal could ever be used for the Republican Party. I really don't. They seem to be working against the people of this country even before Donald Trump. As far as normal for the Republican Party, yeah, I've said this before. Um, Once they hit 2024 and they get absolutely mollywopped in 2024, they're going to have to step back and say, okay, we need to change some things up. And the only thing I can imagine, the only normal thing for them to do would be go back to what they were, or at least try to. I don't think it'll work. I think for them to get back into the game, it's going to take 5 to 10 years. They've done a lot of damage to this country. But the only way to do that is to take somebody like Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger and kind of make them the face of the Republican Party and try to change um, the people in the party where the hardcore conservatives are um, are in control. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, "What about MAGA? They're hardcore conservatives. They're not conservative at all. That's not their issue. They are they are something other than conservative. You can't take Donald Trump, put him in the White House, have him add $7 trillion or $8 trillion to the debt, and claim you're conservative. Sorry, that's not the fucking way it is. You can't give $2 trillion to the rich people in a tax break and call yourself conservative. You just can't do that. It's not right. It's not true. The Republican Party is in a bad place right now because even if they're able to go back to where they were, that wasn't good. Times are changing in this country. See, that's the thing. The Republicans really can't go back to where they were because, say, you cut out Donald Trump and you cut out all this MAGA bullshit, even still, this hardcore conservative base or this attitude is not going to play well with the young people in this country, the millennials, the Gen Zs. They're not going to vote for that. So when the Republicans finally realize that they're going to have to make a change, they're going to have to make a dramatic change. And I've talked to people about this, and I wonder if there couldn't be a way to have three parties. You have the ultra right, you have the ultra left. Both sides have their issues and problems. They're a little bit unreasonable and they're a little bit unrealistic because the vast majority of the people in this country aren't wild right or wild left. It might be interesting to have three or four parties like uh, moderate right, moderate left, or maybe the middle there is just one party. I don't know what it would be, but that may be what it has to be. And to be honest with you, if we had three parties, three solid, powerful parties in this country, that might be affected. You can either go crazy right, crazy left, or down the middle. And frankly, that's where this country typically ends up being. That's what the people of this country believe and feel. So that's where we mostly end up when we elect presidents or senators or whatever. You know, some of the red states or you'll get the far right, but for the most part, it's in the middle range, leaning left, leaning right, whatever it is. There's going to be some dramatic changes in our politics after 2024. Everything the Republicans believed that they stood for and they thought was winning, they're going to find out it's not. So they're going to have to make some changes or just die on the vine. And I doubt that's going to happen, at least not initially. Maybe ultimately it will, but not initially. They're going to try to figure this out after 2024. Uh, Frankly, with their track record, they're not too bright. They don't have a lot of success. So I wouldn't bet money on them bringing this party back, at least for a long time. when we see all of the things that we will see between now and 2024, the Republicans are going to take a huge hit. If you try to overturn Roe v. Wade and do that, it's going to be a long time before the people who support Roe v. Wade ever trust your ass. Ever. This is why I'm saying that in 2024 there's going to be a blue wave because people are frightened that their constitutional rights are being taken away. And as we heard from Old Soul, what's going on with the Republican Party and what's going on with um, this abortion issue, I mean, it's just draconian. People are suffering, people are struggling, and the Republicans won't back off of it a bit, even though they know it's not popular, even though they know it's going to cost them elections. I don't understand that mindset. It makes no sense at all, but that's what they're doing. And people are just not going to stand for it. And we've got old people dying off and new people coming in, and the new people, they ain't buying that shit. They just ain't. All right. We are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. All right. We will continue with the emails. Like I told you, man, got a bunch of motherfucking emails. Good morning, Mike. I wanted to start out thanking you for your epic podcast with Old Soul. Wow. You know, I tend to agree with you. And it was all Old Soul, not me. It was epic because it opened the eyes of a lot of folks, including my own. You know, things I may have known or maybe didn't clearly understand. She really set it straight for us. And if that didn't hit you hard, you weren't listening. Goes on to say, after listening to that episode with her, I mentioned to my wife, I felt like I'd been slapped in the face by my grandma to wake up. Ironically, I listened to another podcast the same day that interviewed doctors leaving Idaho because of their fucked up laws. They also talked to a woman who lives in Idaho who has to travel to Washington 4 hours away to receive health care like her appointments. This doesn't even take into account what happens when she decides to keep the baby and goes into labor. Then she has to drive 4 hours away. This is fucked up. Your podcast and the other one is beginning to remove the scales from my eyes. I'm not alone in saying, how can we help taking into account the fact that I'm in Utah, so it bleeds red and is full of dipshits and Trumplefucks. My wife, who also listens to you and is a fan, was even surprised at what she heard. I do have some questions. What would have to happen to codify Roe v. Wade, and why the hell isn't President Biden and the Democrats not talking about this anymore? Do you think there is some legislation being crafted behind the scenes already? This is one item alone should be talked about every day by the Democrats. Thank you, Boomer, for all your content and wisdom. Gordy. Well, I would presume we'd hear about the Democrats talking about this if there was anything they could do, but as long as the Republicans hold the majority in the House and they're so dead set against Roe v. Wade, they really can't do much. Really, the only thing to do is wait till 2024 and hope against hope that the Democrats get control of the House and the Senate, and then we can codify it. Now, that said, there have been opportunities in the past during the Biden administration and some other situations where they could have codified Roe v. Wade, but never in their wildest dreams did they ever imagine that this would happen. Well, if you work with the Republicans every day, you have to understand that almost anything can happen, regardless of how crazy it seems. But nobody ever really thought that anybody would try to overturn Roe v. Wade, but God damn it, they did it. They did it. And now hopefully they learn a lesson. The Democrats can't do anything right now, given the circumstances and the majority in the House. All they can do is hope they get the majority in the House and the Senate after the 2024 election, and then they better get on that shit. They should not sit back on their haunches and rest on their laurels. They can't fuck around like they did before and just say, we don't need to codify it, it'll be fine, because it's not fine. And people are suffering before it because of it. So, as I've said before, once they get that power, The first thing they better fucking do before anything, and there's a lot of things they've got to address. Um, and so they better get on that and codify that shit. Codify that shit right away. Gordy wrote another note. I don't know that he intended me to read it on the air, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway. Hello, Boomer. Gordy from Utah here. I mentioned that I'll be in Duluth, Minnesota next Wednesday for a week to visit my son and his family for Christmas. My wife and I possibly would like to visit with you and your wife. I know you don't live in Duluth, but I will be in the cities as that is where we are flying in and out of. What is the best way to reach out to you? My phone number, I'm not giving it out. Should I text you and see if we can get together? I'm hopeful we can at least have a burger or say hi to one another. Thank you, Gordy. Yeah, I'm happy to meet you, Gordy. I'm not going to go to Duluth. I love Duluth, but Wednesday wouldn't be a day to go to Duluth for me. My wife, I don't know. I don't know what she has. I honestly don't. But, if we could work it out, I'd be happy to do it. Uh, I'm in the western suburbs, but going down toward the airport is no big deal. Um, so I'll send you an email, send you my phone number to text me, and we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can do. And I'd be happy to say hi and meet you in person. All right. Next one is Over the Road Russell. Hey there, Mike. It's Over the Road Russell, or as he says, OTR Russell, checking in from the road tonight. It's Moriarty, New Mexico. Just wanted to say how happy I am to see Rudy get his final real dose of a comeuppance in the Freeman Moss slander case. I hope those two ladies actually get enough of the judgment to ease the remainder of their lives. I'm doubtful Rudy had enough left to pay much, though, sadly. Anyway, keep up your good work and please keep urging all Americans to get out and vote in 2024, possibly the most important election in our nation's history so far. Thanks, OTR Russell. Yeah, that case was interesting. They were looking for anywhere from 20 to 40 million dollars, and of course, the court awarded Freeman and Moss $148. And Russell, you're probably right. I doubt that he has $148 million. I don't know how that's all going to play out and how that's going to work. Now, a couple of things about that story. Um, Rudy's just fucking delusional. See, he went out afterwards and he's still talking shit. He lost the fucking case. He was saying they never let me show any evidence. Well, you didn't put up a defense. You didn't testify. When they asked you for evidence, you refused to give it. And that's why they had a summary judgment against you. So now he's suggesting that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, that we'll get him on appeal. Only problem with that is there's two problems with that, Rudy. First of all, if you want to appeal, much like the situation with Donald Trump in New York with Letitia James' lawsuit, if you want to appeal, you're going to have to put some money in escrow. I don't know if it's the full amount, the full $148 million, but it's going to be a lot of money, a lot more money than you have. So go ahead and appeal, but you better go to the pocketbook and write a check that's going to clear, and it's going to have to be for a lot of money. Now, you have a second problem if you want to appeal. When you appeal something like this, it's because there was some mistake by a judge or whoever with the evidence. In an appeal, you don't have the opportunity to introduce new evidence. You can only deal with the evidence in the trial that you're appealing. Well, now, since you didn't supply any evidence, this new evidence that you claim, they won't even look at. So, Rudy, don't tell me you're going to appeal it. You're not. You don't have the money to do it, and you have no evidence. You supplied no evidence in the first trial. You can't introduce new evidence in the second trial. So, fuck you, you dipshit. You can't do it. Excuse me. Cold's getting better, but not done yet. All right, the next email. Hey, Boomer, thanks for some great work today. I've noticed the last couple of days your hot takes a bit trepidation, especially unbelievable and transactional. I wouldn't blame you if you are a bit. Remember what I said about something big and bad is working to the surface. I'm wondering if the reason the courts and everything is going slow because there's an element of shock. I'm reminded of the great Frank Zappa tune. It can't happen here. The fact is, it has. I don't know where people are getting this trepidation from me. I have no trepidation. I have changed nothing about what I think. I'm very confident in what I think is going to happen in 2024. So if you got that from what I said, you're fucking wrong. Just saying. He continues by saying, I've read a lot of American history from sources other than the usual prescribed Yankee Doodle fairy tale books. Our history is very murky and at the very beginning and basically is built on a very unstable foundation of myth. America is about the accumulation of wealth and the control of all political powers by an elite of rich white Anglo males. It's based on race and class. It's why the Constitution has not been changed in 246 years. They will not do anything to change the system. Trump and the Republicans and some Democrats are the product and guardians of this system. It's deliberately designed to cause mayhem and division. I and many others are skeptical about these trials and this election. If we had done this, we'd be in jail 3 years ago. Based on our murky history, if Trump beats all these charges, it will become clear that this country is a fraud and always was, as many people feel it is, just a giant business venture. If Trump gets elected and tries to become dictator, the following will very well happen. The blue states, which produces 80% of our GDP, and California, which is the fourth largest economy in the world, will hold back their revenues from the federal government, eventually separating and causing the red states to collapse because they depend on tax revenue from the blue states. Chaos will happen. Secondly, based on General Milley's speech, a possible revolt within the military and a very possible military coup. This is my humble opinion. We are not that special as people think. It can happen here. I'm optimistic that you're right and he's not going to be on the ballots, but we must be realistic and prepared as well as positive. This is not just a new century, but a new age. Anything is possible. I look forward to your podcast every day. Love Ed and Ed's Old Soul. We hope for the best. Sorry for the long email. Hang in there, Z-Man. Um, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but he's not going to be elected president. If everything you said was actually going to happen, I get your point, and I've said it before. If Donald Trump is not held accountable, and Donald Trump becomes president, there is going to be an upheaval in this country, and it's going to be among the Democrats because of the fear of what's going to happen to their country and to each one of them. I agree with that, but there's no way Donald Trump becomes president. There's no way he's not held accountable. There's too much at stake. You know, the government is worried about the chaos and the upheaval and such, and he's going to have to be held accountable. He's going to have to. I just don't think the scenario you're laying out is anything but well, it's speculation certainly, and anything any of us do, including me, is speculation. But I just don't see it happening that way. Um, are there some underlying things about this country that are fucked up? Yeah, there's no question about that. But this would create essentially the end of this country. And if what you're saying is true about this being a big corporation and that it's all about money, that would be the last thing these people would want. They'd have to let this play out, let Donald Trump be accountable, let him go to jail, and then readjust and try to figure out how to game the system after that. Burning it to the ground doesn't make any sense financially. All right, this one comes from Jin, not Jim, Jin, Jin. Hi, Mike. I'm a millennial from New York, registered independent. I have listened to your podcast since January of 2023. Your podcast is unfiltered and speak the truth when I listen to it in the morning. Have you considered having Old Soul and Ed on your podcast? I think it would be an all-star episode with them, maybe in the future. I would like to be a guest, but I have to see if the timing is right since I'm in New York and you are in Minnesota. Keep the good work, keep up the good work, and fuck Dean Phillips, Jen. Dean Phillips is the representative from the House who happens to represent my district, who's looking at challenging Joe Biden. How's that going for you, Dean? Fuck Dean Phillips. I just hate the fact that this arrogant motherfucker is even doing this. This is not a time to be fucking around um, with our election in 2024. Now, mind you, I don't think he'll have any impact. I really don't. I think he'll drop off sometime soon because he's got no support. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. But for me, he's ruined his his candidacy for anything in the future because of this one act by trying to run a primary against Joe Biden. I don't even know that there'll be a primary because he doesn't have enough support. And in fact, he said that he's not going to run for reelection. I think some people got to him and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Democrats aren't going to support you anymore if you're going to pull this shit." So he's a man without a party, I'm guessing. Maybe not officially. As far as Ed and Old Soul being on at the same time, yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I don't know that that can happen. I usually, I don't know why. I've said this to Ed. Ed, you're fucking retired. Why is it so hard to nail you down? We usually do it on Friday afternoons, my time, right around noon. That's when he can do it. He's got other shit going on. Um, Old Soul works during the day. So I don't know that I can get her to do a midday recording. I'm not going to get Ed to go at night because he's old, and Old Soul is working during the day. So I don't know that that could happen. If we can work it out at some point, I will give it a try. Certainly, I'd feel comfortable with those two on the show together. I will be honest with you. Whenever we have multiple guests on, it can get a little clumsy because we got three people, maybe four people that all have a point they want to make. And because we're not sitting in the same room, it's easy to step on other people, and then it becomes very convoluted and kind of messy. I will do shows with three people, but it's got to be the right three people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not judging anybody here, but you got to kind of be adaptable to what's going on. Now, Ed and Old Soul could pull it off. There's no question. And there's a number of other people that have come on the show that can pull it off. But it's not that easy. And it does sometimes get confusing. So I'll talk to Ed and I'll talk to Old Soul. I wouldn't count on it because the timing doesn't work out. Other people want to do a three-person show. I'll be honest with you. We talked about it and we've done it in the past. Well, it'd be kind of cool to have a bunch of people on the show. And it is kind of interesting, but it is harder. And it's harder to follow when you do that. So I doubt I would do more than two guests because it just, we're doing an hour and to get everybody to get their points in is very difficult to do. So I'll do two, maybe on a weird, crazy, and if I'm drunk and I haven't drank for 30 years, maybe do three guests or four guests. But that's going to have to be a special circumstance. All right. Next up, do you think it's a possibility Mark Meadows handed over that binder in question to Trump instead of keeping or burning it? I also wonder if Trump could have been smart enough, yeah, I know, him smart, LOL, to funnel a lot of money to his wife and her kids before all the indictments came down. Maybe someone advised him to do it. Thanks again. Actually, I don't know who sent that. But oh, Peg. Okay. Um, yeah, I absolutely do think he funneled money to Melania. But I don't know that it was his doing. I think Melania had some kind of agreement with him financially before they got married. Because they were talking about the fact that she was renegotiating that prenuptial thing. And I think they are funneling money away for Barron at the very least and Melania. Now, whether they'll share it with Donald Trump once he's convicted, I doubt it. I think Melania will burn that fucking, scorch that earth and burn that bridge after it's done. I think she'll be glad to be rid of Donald Trump and have some cash in the bank. But yeah, I think there's some money going to Melania and Barron. And I don't really care about that. I don't like Melania. I think she's a piece of shit. Barron, look who he's born to, but he's a kid, so you got to give him a chance. And hopefully, after going through what he's going to go through, watching his dad burn to the ground, maybe he'll end up better. Maybe not. Maybe he'll end up like his brother, Don Jr. And in that case, fuck him. But he's a kid still, so I'm not going to hold anything against him. All right, the next one. Hey, Mike, wanted to find out how you might agree or disagree with this. What your thoughts are? Having heard yesterday that there was a very long intentional process to overturn Roe v. Wade, that was in the works well before Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. It makes me think that there are so many things in our government, including the Supreme Court, are happening way before we ever hear about it. Yeah, the idea that there might be some things going on in our government that we have no idea about, things behind the scenes, under our noses, but behind the scenes. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that shit going on, and I think we're going to find out a lot about it. We know that the interest in overturning Roe v. Wade has been there for quite a while. So yeah, I'm not surprised by that. There's a new report that came out that was talking about all the things that were going on behind the scenes, and that's not surprising at all. Um, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that these strategies and plans were in the works the day after Roe v. Wade was enacted. That's who these people are. The fact that it's taken them this long is interesting. And the fact that they actually overturned Roe v. Wade is working against the Republicans. It's going to cost them elections. They've got nothing to campaign on now. They've got nothing to fundraise on. The dog chasing the car, and they caught the car. Now they don't know what the fuck to do. Email goes on. Then there's the news regarding the raw information about Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Again, there's a huge amount of potentially dangerous information that seems to have simply disappeared, although Cassidy Hutchinson seems to think that Mark Meadows was walking out the door of the White House with it under his arm. Also makes me wonder how many copies there are of this raw information, as they have referred to it as the unredacted version. Supposedly, the dumpster was going to declassify this information to release to prove it a hoax. I think this has been known for months. I don't think that this, as they say, is breaking news. I know it's not. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not breaking news. It's hard to say what Donald Trump did with this shit, but you can bet none of it was good. The fact that this is out there in the ether and we have no idea where it is or how many copies there might be. I tend to say, think of the best, don't think of the worst. But when we're talking about Donald Trump in this kind of situation, I think it's safe to consider the worst because Donald Trump is the worst. And having this out there is frightening. What I'm frightened about is what else don't we know? I mean, this has been known for a while in government circles. We're now just finding out about it. What else don't we know about? Do we know that Donald Trump has, in fact, handed off documents to our adversarial countries like Russia or Saudi Arabia or North Korea? My bet is he has. Why wouldn't he? He had them in his hands. He would use them either to impress people or to gain some kind of enrichment. That's not surprising at all. It's not even thinking negatively. It's knowing Donald Trump for who he is and expecting what he would do. And that's what he would fucking do. As she goes on to say, it feels to me that the way things are happening, that we as American citizens have little opportunity to be proactive because things are already so far down the road before we hear about it. It also makes me not trust the news that I hear because I can't know how long somebody has already known about whatever is being reported. As always, Mike, thank you for your insight and sharing your thoughts on these questions. Crazy cat lady, Judy in Oregon. I've said it all along. You can't trust the media. It's a sad thing to say, but you really can't. They they either don't know or are unwilling to tell you anything other than those things that will scare you enough to keep you watching. There is no such thing as journalism anymore. Well, you might get some with AP and NPR and BBC and that sort of thing, but the place where most people get their news is not journalistic in nature by any means. It's about being slanted one way or another and telling you what they want you to know and not telling you everything. And that's, part and parcel as to why we do what we do with the Rational Boomer. All right, next one comes from Linda. Hi, Boomer. I follow you in Facebook and on your YouTube and love all of your guests except for the Trumplafuck. But someone on Facebook contacted me and wanted to know if I was good with my investments immediately. I thought, this is not Mike. You've never mentioned investments the past 6 months. I've been watching. I saved his interaction with me if you'd like to see it. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, Linda, on TikTok and apparently Facebook too. Um, I've got some impersonators out there. And this is a weird situation because they'll have a name that's similar to Rational Boomer, but they'll drop the L or add a number or something or an underscore. And then they'll use my picture and then they'll try to sell people crypto or other investment bullshit. I get these questions almost as much as I get the questions about the discoloration on my nose. I'm still getting those fucking things. That nose thing, my uncle had that. It was cancer and he died. You better have that checked. Yeah, motherfucker. Where do you think I live? In the woods? You don't think I go to a doctor, motherfucker? It's a discoloration. I'm 63 years old. I know what it is. It's not cancer. I'm cool. And in terms of asking you to invest in things or even buy things, um, that's not me. It's not me. And the thing I tell everybody is if you see these people, report them and block them. Now, the one that it says Rational Boomer minus the L, I went to seek it out to try to report it for myself. Couldn't find it. Oh, these guys are a little smarter than I give them credit for because apparently they start this account and then they block my account so I can't see them. It's actually a smart idea. But I'm tired of these motherfuckers. I get emails every day or DMs every day saying, this isn't you, is it? Two things you can do. If they're asking to sell you something or not talk to, put it this way, if they're seeking you out, it's not me. Generally, I respond to people who seek me out. I don't go looking to engage people. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because I've got so many people coming to me. I don't really have time or the need to do that. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to talk to you, but I'm not going to go, hey, by the way, I got some shit to sell you. No, I'm not selling shit. And to be honest with you, on TikTok, they're really pushing this TikTok shop thing. I get shit every day. Hey, you want to sell this? You want to? No, I don't want to sell any of your shit. I don't I don't care if I make money off it. I don't fucking care. I'm not doing it. I'm not selling TikTok shit on my TikToks or on my podcast or on YouTube or whatever. I'm just not fucking doing it. All right. Well, thank you for that. And I appreciate the heads up. And as I say, if you see an imposter, just report and block. Funny fucking thing about it is, as much as these guys have been reported, TikTok has yet to take them down. They're still fucking out there. I can't believe it. I don't know what you got to do. I mean, if I say the wrong thing on TikTok, they get mad at me. But apparently, you can impersonate somebody. I think I said before, maybe I should just impersonate Harry Styles and sell pearls. I could fucking do that. Anyhow, next email. In my last email, I talked about the bill that prevents presidents from leaving NATO without congressional approval. I'm now hearing it was added into the defense budget bill by the Senate and the House Republicans missed it. Once again, the Democrats are making the Republicans look inept, or in my words, dumb as fuck. And you're right. That's true. You reported on that missing binder of Russian intelligence that Dirty Diaper Donnie apparently took. I'm guessing that info is why we had so many Russian agents we had working for us mysteriously turn up dead. Once again, he put himself over people's safety and our national security. Legal Dad said that it was supposedly a 10-inch binder. I'm wondering if Meadows' immunity deal will cover this as it's not related to January 6th. Could both Meadows and Trump be facing espionage or treason charges? Wouldn't that be something for Meadows avoided if Meadows avoided all the January 6th stuff just to be charged over this? Let's add another case on Donnie's plate just in case he wasn't fucked enough. I'll be honest with you. If I was Mark Meadows, I wouldn't feel like I was out of the woods. First of all, you're not going to get any immunity from Georgia at this point. And there's likely other shit that's going to come out like this binder thing. So Mark Meadows may have immunity for January 6th, but we've got this whole other case with the classified documents. Now, this one I think would be another separate case because it wouldn't be in Florida. It would be in D.C. And so don't be surprised if we see some indictments over that one as well. The email goes on to say the decision for Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman was perfect. Rudy is fucked. Much like his Lord and Savior, Dirty Diaper Donnie, he couldn't stop himself from defaming them again. He's going to probably get sued again like Trump in the Eugene Carroll case. He will owe them even more money. It sounds like they might be going after Trump as well, and who knows who else. Yeah, they did say that. They said there's other people that came after him. And our work isn't done yet. I don't know what that means, but I would presume they're going to sue some other people. Another group of people they may want to sue, Fox News. The verdict did send me down a bit of a rabbit hole. From everything I read, it appears like Rudy and Donnie are fucked and not even bankruptcy can save them. It read to me that the defamation and fraud judgments can't be discharged in bankruptcy. If I'm correct on this, there is nothing either one could do to keep from paying out. I've heard that this is similar to Donnie's fraud verdict in that he will have to put up either part or all of the amount of damages in order to appeal. That's true. Eric. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. He he can't just appeal and delay it for 2 years, 4 years, 10 years. He's got to put some money up. I don't know if he has to put all of it up or a good portion of it. It's got to be some good faith effort. And frankly, when we're talking about Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump, there is no good faith there. I don't know how they determine how much they have to put up, but I presume whatever the risk they are, it's going to mean more money they have to put up. And Donald Trump and Rudy just don't have the money to do it. We'll see how serious they are about their appeals when it comes down to that point. Now, Rudy is going to have to make that decision. As I told you before, he's got a problem. He's got no evidence. He's got no money. So an appeal just doesn't make sense. He's going to talk shit. I mean, keep in mind, this guy's 79 years old. They can garnish his wages. They can attach everything he's got. But if he doesn't have $148 million, they're never going to get the $148 million. So as you pointed out, he may have defamed them again, but what would be the point of suing them again if there's no money to be had? You can only take so much money from this guy. And in addition to this lawsuit, he's going on trial in Georgia where he might get put in jail. There's going to be no money there. He can't earn any money from jail if he even survives. Like I say, he's 79 years old and he's not in the best of health and he's an alcoholic. So I don't know how much they're going to get from him. I don't know that they'll sue him again because what's the point at this stage? All right, we're going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast, but I want to mention one other thing. We did this whole show almost all email. In fact, all emails. Just this last story I'll tell you about because it's so disgusting. Donald Trump is under fire right now because Saturday he gave a speech in New Hampshire. Now, it's not surprising that he might have said some horrific shit. That's kind of standard fare for Donald Trump. But he said something pretty egregious, even for him. He said that regarding migrants, they are poisoning the blood of our country. Now, he's basically repeating language purportedly used by Hitler and other dictators. Now, he was also accused of rewriting the history of his own presidency during his New Hampshire speech, used some of the same language he has used in the past in connection with the immigration concerns. Specifically, the former president said, they're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poisoned mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world, he added. They're pouring into the country. Trump then insinuated that the current immigration status will lead to terrorism. Now, it's funny he should mention that because when it comes to terrorism, the only terrorism of late that I know about happen to be white dumb fucks that happen to be Republicans and follow Donald Trump. Those are the only terrorists that I'm familiar with these days. It's not been people from overseas. It's been the fucking Trump-la-fucks. Now, MSNBC addressed the comments on the air with a reporter suggesting Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy are guilty of similar uses of controversial language historically reserved for dictators. Experts were also quick to jump on Trump's comment. Robert Reich, a professor at Berkeley and the Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton, said, claiming that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country is the literal language of Hitler's Mein Kampf. Trump and his allies are openly embracing fascism, and it's time for the media to stop being scared to use the word. A Biden-Harris 2024 account wrote that Trump was echoing Hitler. Longtime GOP stalwart Bill Kristol had this message for those voting in the Republican Party. Hey, Republican primary voters, many of your ancestors fought against this. Many of your ancestors came to America to get away from this. Don't vote for this un-American crap. And the New York University professor and authoritarianism expert Ruth Ben-Ghiat also, also chimed in. He's going to say that the approximate 100 times before the election because he knows that propaganda must be repeated to take hold. For the same reason, Carlson featured Great Replacement Theory 400 times on his Fox News show. I'll be honest with you, if he's going to keep repeating this dictatorship stuff, it's going to work against him. It might rally the base, a bunch of dumb fucks that like the idea of a dictatorship, but the vast majority of the people in this country are going to be frightened by it. They're not going to stand by it, and they're not going to vote for it. So I say, keep talking, Donnie. You're just putting yourself in a position where you're going to lose in 2024, if you're even the candidate, and I'm not convinced that's even a possibility at this point. But Ramaswamy and DeSantis, you can keep talking that shit too, because neither one of you are going to be the candidate. I don't know who it's going to be. Right at this point, presumably it's going to be Donald Trump just by virtue of the polling. But Donald Trump's got a lot of tangential issues that he has to deal with before he becomes the candidate. And I don't know that he can handle it. I heard some report, and I don't know that it's true because I haven't seen the video, that Donald Trump fell down recently. I don't know if it was in Iowa or New Hampshire or whatever. I heard a lot of people talking about it. I never saw the video, so I don't even know that it's true. But I do know this. He's 77 years old. He's not in the best mental or physical health. The pressure on him has to be immense. And if it were to take him down and take him out, it would not be surprising given all that's going on. Even a crazy ass mind like Donald Trump's can only take so much. And I think he's under immense pressure, something a man 35 would have difficult time with. You get some sick fuck like a 77-year-old Donald Trump. I don't know how you survive that. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day. And of course, we will talk to you again tomorrow.